This week we've been taking a look at the new movie, Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. Well, this morning we're going to be talking with director Steven Spielberg. Our man in Hollywood, Jim Brown, says that this movie bears the unmistakable stamp of its maker.
It is the kind of movie that has made Steven Spielberg a wealthy man and the cinema icon that most young directing hopefuls would like to be. It is Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, the third, and depending on who's doing the talking, final film in the adventure series.
100 millimeter on the ground. Okay.
This is Spielberg at work last summer in Spain with his stars. Harrison Ford returning as the archaeologist adventurer, and Sean Connery as Ford's father. A superb piece of casting for which Spielberg takes proper credit.
Well, you know, the thing that Sean and Harrison have in common as movie actors in real movies is that they're less concerned about their own characters as they are about the entire movie. And I really like that a lot, because they're looking ahead to see whether the movie's going to be any good. And Harrison's always been concerned about, you know, whether this works or that story point works, or is it too mysterious or discombobulated for the audience? Will they understand this? Or are there too many clues or too few clues? Harrison always gets involved in that kind of devil's advocate, you know, conversation with me. And in the same way, Sean.
The Last Crusade is a return to the fast-paced, humorous adventure that was the first movie in the series, Raiders of the Lost Ark. The second film, Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, was much darker. And Spielberg feels that was the influence of his producer, George Lucas.
I think George had a master plan that he didn't even tell me about. And he might have been trying to parallel a little bit the Star Wars saga with The Empire Strikes Back and Temple of Doom having a kind of darkness to both of them. But I was a little more in control of the third movie in terms of what it was going to be about. It was my idea to do a father-son relationship picture using the backdrop of Raiders to give it its, you know, overdrive. And but George really wanted to go out on a sort of a celebration as opposed to anything too cerebral.
There is a non-cerebral common thread that weaves itself through all three indie movies, what Spielberg calls the wee beasties, usually affecting the female lead. In Raiders, it was snakes, proving a problem for leading lady Karen Allen. In Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, bugs, which had to be faced by Kate Capshaw. And in The Last Crusade, Alison Doody may get to kiss the leading man, but then she has to face rodents' delight.
Oh, rats.
Well, for one thing, they were bred in captivity. So they were bred to be movie stars. Every one of them, all 6,000 of them. You know, it was like the biggest contract stable since the old days of MGM. And they were, you know, they were bred that way for a reason. We wanted them to be clean. We didn't want them to carry any kind of, you know, disease, any sort of germs. That didn't quell the fears of the crew, because once again, like in the previous two films, there's at least half the crew that doesn't mind rats, and the other half can't stand them. So once again, half the crew works on the rat sequences, and the other half of the crew goes outside the soundstage and talks until the scenes are done. Same thing with the rat. Same thing with the snakes. In the first one, we lost half the crew on the first movie, and we lost 3/4 of the crew with the bugs.
In The Last Crusade, you get a chance to learn where things come from as far as India is concerned, and the movie has a finality about it.
Well, it's a finality for me. You know, I mean, I certainly, you know, don't control the destiny of the Indiana Jones movies. George could make as many as he'd like, but it was certainly my graduation gift to be able to work on something like this and then, in the best way possible, say goodbye to all my old friends and move on.
The riding off into the sunset is very literal at the end of this film, isn't it?
I built every clue into this movie I possibly could think of to let George know that we should retire this guy's number. I did all I could. But I think we'd like to quit at this point. Well, we all feel that we've pretty much, we have a nice sort of first, second, and third act. And why create a fourth act? Well, we don't really need one.
Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade opens May 24th. For today, Jim Brown, NBC News, Hollywood.
Tomorrow we'll meet Indy's new female lead in The Last Crusade, the lady with the rats, Alison Doody. Brian will be back.
This morning we're continuing our series on the newest Indiana Jones adventure. It's called Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, a Lucas Spielberg offering that's filled with action, adventure, and, oh yeah, a little bit of romance. That love interest provided by Irish-born actress Alison Doody, who is making her starring debut in The Last Crusade. And good morning.
Hello.
Since yours is not a name familiar to anyone who's watching, it begs the first question, how'd you get this?
How did I get the part? I was introduced to Stephen, who asked me to audition. I did 3 scenes for him with George Lucas, and I waited for about 3 weeks, which felt like 3 months, and I found out I got the part.
Why you?
Why me?
Yeah.
I think because I did a good test. I think he was impressed with my test, and I showed him a tape of previous work that I had done. And I think I was lucky.
Did you have kind of a feeling, I mean, after the test, did you walk out going, yeah, I nailed that?
No, no, I never do that. Sometimes I think I've done a good test and then I don't get the part.
Yeah.
Other times I think I've done a very bad test and I do get the part. I think it varies.
In terms of degree of difficulty, I mean, can I say with some assurance this was the hardest thing you'd ever done since it was your first starring role in a major film?
I don't think it was the most difficult thing I've ever done. I think it was different because most of the stuff that I have done has been varied. It hasn't just been adventure. I did another film, Prayer for the Dying, which was also difficult. Each actual part that I've done has had its difficulties. Mm-hmm. It's just different. It is adventure. It's running around, doing some stunt work and things like that. So that's the difficulty in this.
The odd twist to this one is you are Irish-born and you had to have an Austrian accent.
That's right.
Hard?
Yeah, they were. It was. The Austrian accent was. It was great for me to be given the opportunity to put on another accent. I worked with Robert Easton, who's a great dialogue coach, and we worked together on that. Originally, it was quite strong, but then we realised that was a little comic, so it's very slight. But it's funny, they were looking for an Austrian 28-year-old and they ended up with an Irish 23-year-old.
That's all right. I'm sure they're happy. Let's talk about Dr. Elsa Schneider, who is your part. Give me a quick character sketch.
Quick character sketch is she's a very independent lady. She's an art historian. She's, as I see her, she's a match for Indiana Jones. She goes out and gets what she wants.
Mm-hmm. She's very much like
cool.
him. Yeah. Let's take a look at her and him in one of the caverns below the streets of Venice.
Just like your father, giddy as a schoolboy. Wouldn't it be wonderful if he were here now to see this?
He never would have made it past the rats. He hates rats. He's scared to death of them.
I don't give anything away if I say what happened after that, right?
Do you? I don't know.
No. I mean...
No, you don't really.
Did you really do the scene with the rats climbing all over your head?
Yes, I did. Which didn't bother me in the slightest.
Why not?
Well, they were more frightened of me than I was of them. I'm a lot bigger. They didn't bother me in the slightest.
Wait a minute. You mean to tell me the first time Stephen sat across from you and said, okay, now here's what we're going to do now. All these rats are going to climb up over your head. You kind of went, that's okay.
No. I mean, I did say that at the audition, sure. But I was a bit apprehensive. But when I came in contact with them, I realized that they wouldn't harm you unless you treated them badly, and nobody did that. So it was okay. And the rats from the Ritz, they're very clean rats.
The first 2 Indiana Jones episodes did nothing career-wise for the 2 women who were co-stars in them.
Don't say that.
Well, I mean, I asked that only because I'm wondering if that doesn't concern you a little bit.
It doesn't really, because I'm a working actress. I just want to get on. I'm doing a lot of publicity for the film. I don't really think about that, no. I mean, it's just I've been given a great opportunity because it puts me on the map, as it were, or it puts me in the public eye for a little while, and it helps me a little that way. But the next job, I'm just waiting for the next job. It doesn't worry me. No.
And you will be seen, and my guess is not a lot of people will be able to forget.
Oh, thank you.
Alison Doody, good luck to you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. We're going to come back in just a moment. There's more ahead right after this.